Hello everyone, this is Mang John from Thailand. I'm gonna share with you very interesting story about the theory called the butterfly effect. Okay, actually, um, I make a very nice presentation for all of you again. See, this is the first time that I ever use this presentation, so it's brand new, never presented anywhere before. All right, so basically, the butterfly effect, you probably have heard about people talking about this. A butterfly flaps its wing in Brazil and causes a hurricane in Texas. Actually, this phrase or this sentence is the title of a publication from a scientist. And actually, he discovered something that surprised him really a lot. Okay. But before that, let me ask you, your understanding about the butterfly effect. Have you ever encountered something like this in your life at all? What is your understanding about the butterfly effect? Maybe you can share by typing in the chat, okay, so we can see about your understandings as well. But let me ask you or share with you one story. I'm not sure if you read this story, can this be considered a butterfly effect as well? Okay, so this is a story that I got from Reddit. You probably know about Reddit. It's like bulletin board, online bulletin board that people can ask questions and they can also post something there. Okay, so um, this is a story of a person. Okay, and I'm not sure he or she said that my mom wore heels to work and slipped on the carpet steps one day. Okay, you can see. So his or her mom wore heels to work and slipped on the carpet steps one day. All right. And because of that, her high heel and legs were broken, or maybe one leg because it's missing an S here. Her high heel and a leg were both broken, okay? Because she wore heels to work and slipped on a carpeted steps one day, her high heel and leg were broken. And while she was at home recovering, she developed allergies that led her to her needing penicillin. Okay, penicillin is something that used to heal different things, and here can be used to heal allergies. Perhaps any medical doctors here? Can anyone confirm that penicillin can also be used to heal allergies? Okay, and the penicillins she was prescribed interfere with her birth control, and because of that, now I have a brother 13 years younger than me. So the other of the story, or the owner of the story, believed that because of one day her mom wore heels to work, and because of that her legs was broken, and leg was broken, and while she was recovering she needs to use penicillin, and that interfered her birth control, and eventually she got pregnant and delivered a brother for the owner of the story 13 years apart. So something little can interfere and create bigger consequences in the future. So that's perhaps the meaning of the butterfly effect. Have you encountered such stories like this or something similar to this, anyone who actually had the kind of similar experiences before? Okay, you're thinking, right? Not so much. My life is a little bit smooth. Okay, but in fact, this is what people understand about the butterfly effect. But somehow the butterfly effect today is a little bit broader than the story that I share with you. So a group of people on Reddit was asked, what is your story about the butterfly effect? Please share your story. And there are many people who posted their stories there. And one of the stories is the one that I just read for you, okay? But in fact, the butterfly effect is a scientific experiment conducted by Edward Rollins, who tried to actually predict the weather in many years ago. So he actually used different precision of floating number. So if you know what floating numbers are, they are like number with small fractions that is not integer or the real numeric number. But then he actually reduced the precisions of the number. Instead of using 6 digits floating points, he used only 3 digits, because in the past, computing was very expensive. So if you can reduce the amount of digits you compute, it's going to make the computer run much faster and cheaper in the past. These days, you probably don't need to reduce this at all. You can compute with 10 digits of floating numbers and maybe 15. There will not be any different. You can even do that from your mobile phone. And I'm talking about this from a programmer point of view, really from a programmer perspective, okay? So you can trust me. But actually, his experiment led to 2 different outcomes. So when he actually used 6 digits floating number, the result of the prediction was, of forecasting, was it was going to be a sunny day. But when he actually used just 3 digits to compute the whole thing, he found out that the system told him that it was going to rain, something like that. So this is a story that from many years ago from Edward Rollins. Somehow he also noticed that in order to make the change, it's not going to be an immediate change just from the first iterations of the computing. So it will take a while until the system reaches a critical point. And what is this a critical point? For example, if you boil water, the critical point is at 100 degrees Celsius. So when the water temperature doesn't reach 100 degrees Celsius, the water will not boil, okay? So if 99, 98 is not boiling yet, but when it reaches 100 degrees, that's the critical point. We have enough mass for the system to produce completely different results. Okay, so he actually make a definition that a butterfly effect is a sensitive dependence on initial condition in which small change in one state of a deterministic nonlinear system can result in large differences in a later state. Don't worry if you don't understand this title. Let me explain the words that I highlight with different colors here. So the butterfly effect depends on initial conditions, okay, that are different. And these different initial conditions will create bigger changes. Okay, there might be small fractions of changes at the beginning, but later on, they will create very big changes in the system when the initial conditions are not the same. All right. So they actually put definitions, so I'm a little bit more scientific today because I'm talking about something really scientific. Anyway, that's not going to be any equations for you, or you're not going to have any math exams instead of meditation. So in chaos theory, it's a complex system where behavior is highly sensitive to slight changes. So the scientists try to build a system that is very immune to changes. Whether you try to add some changes, small changes in the systems, but the system should actually yield the same result. But they found out that the many systems in our life that can be related to this butterfly effect. So we need to be careful of those changes as much as we can. So the thing about the butterfly effect is, if we know how it works, maybe we can predict the future, right? Because if we know how changes will lead to some big result, then if this input is present, we know that, oh, definitely it has to be that output. And scientists use this to predict many things. For example, a study in a journal of family psychology following 95 couples, they attempt to predict a divorce rate with that theory of the butterfly effect and chaos theory, and they were correct 87% of the time. Wow, that's interesting, right? So it means that whenever the computer system sees maybe the resume or some story about a couple, and the man is like this, the lady is like this, they can really predict if you will be together forever or not. Interesting. Maybe before you get married, you can consult the system first. But anyway, you're not going to pay attention to the result, because when you are in love, you're going to get married anyway. So you are not going to listen to a computer system, right? All right. Don't worry about that. Okay. Actually, if these things that I'm presenting to you are not related to you, let's look at these two numbers, okay? So these two numbers also represent the changes about the butterfly effect. 1.01 and 0.99, these two numbers are not much different at all, right? It's just 0.02 difference. So in many applications, this difference can be discarded because they should not provide any significant difference. But if you put this number and multiply itself for 365 times, so that can represent the number of days in a year, you can see that the end result of these two numbers multiplying itself for 365 times yield huge difference in the result, right? If you multiply 1.01 365 times, you're going to get 37.8. But if you multiply 0.99 to itself 365 times, you only get 0.03, right? So that leads to how we actually can create changes and positive changes, or maybe drive the system in a different direction. There's stories about these ripple effects as well. For example, this is a story in the United States of America many years ago. I don't remember the year, but it started from two ladies. Actually, Claudette was just a girl, and she refused to give her seat when a white man entered a bus, that she was sitting in the bus and there was no seat, and a white man appeared and she refused to give the seat. And she was arrested. But then nothing happened. But when Rosa Parks actually did the same thing and she was arrested the same way, Martin Luther King actually started demonstration, and that led to Montgomery bus boycott and the march to Washington that later on changed the landscape of human rights and social rights in the United States of America. So that actually how you have enough mass, critical mass, and if you in the society, maybe this can be good change or maybe it could be bad change. It could be both. But what if in society things are going wrong at the moment and you try to make things right? Maybe if you do it alone, it's not going to happen. But if you do it alone, together with some group of people that is large enough to create critical mass, that could change and create and catch the attentions of the mainstream movement. So this radical movement can lead to social reform. And this is a theory coined by sociologist George Wilhelm, a German sociologist. Okay, so it means that a butterfly effect can also lead to positive changes in society as well. Okay. And if we come back to this number, you can see that why this number doesn't work, especially if you compare with your personal development. Okay, 1.01 is when you strive to make something better for yourself every day. And this is the number of days in the whole year. So it means you're trying to do something better. You try so hard, but you only get little change every day. It wouldn't be visible. On the very first days, you probably notice no change at all. But after a year and you look back, you feel that your life have changed completely. What about the other number? 0.99 is when you do something worse than you are doing today. If you perhaps meditate like 10 minutes for a day, but then from tomorrow you only meditate 5 minutes, that's like slightly less, right? And you keep doing 5 minutes for a whole year. And by the end of the year, you find out that you can't even close your eyes and keep your mind still anymore. So that is an example. Lifting weight, for example, you lift 10 kilos, but then later on you just change to 8 kilos, 7 kilos, 5 kilos. You might have a question. Is that really possible? Why do someone just want to reduce the number of the kilos? Who knows, right? But sometimes people actually do like that and they reduce what they've been doing great. Maybe they have their time and attention for doing something else. And after 1 year, 365 days in a row, you can see that now the graph is going down to a hole, right? And that's why if you try to change yourself, you need to, okay, I got this one from a very nice book called Atomic Habits. They actually call a very nice term here, valley of disappointment. You're going to be under this valley of disappointment because you will have expectation that if you do something this hard in your life, if you try to create some change, then change will be visible to you, to your very eyes. But in fact, what actually happened is it's going to take a while for the habits to be visible to you, to give result to you, and you will need to stay in this valley of disappointment for a while. So either you have the faith in the process that you are working with, or you give up and become your old self. This is what many people actually fail to create new habits because they expect that their habits are going to be shown to them in overnights or maybe few weeks, few months, but in fact, it's going to take much longer for habits to form, okay? So basically, things that we have to deal with when we work with our habits is our own inner voices. The inner voices keep telling us the whole time that maybe we should quit or maybe we should not doing that anymore because it's not fun. I'm lazy, I'm exhausted, I don't have time. There will be hundreds of beautiful reasons in your mind because of the viruses of the mind. And these viruses will whisper to your ears to give off, not to push yourself anymore, to look to people who don't do it. And you will tell yourself that I should not meditate because people around me, no one meditates, for example. Okay, and because of this, you will not be able to bear such noises in your ears, such voices, and get yourself through the valley of disappointment until you come to the success that is visible to your eyes later on. Okay, so that might be the challenge. Kelly say, yes, I can sustain good things for about 3 days. Is that good? I mean, like, should be longer? Shouldn't it be longer? You know, when you try to do something good, at least mark your goal for about few months. Maybe you can say 1 month or 2 months, but 3 days, you're going to fall back into your good old habits because, as they say, old habits die hard. So if you want to kill your old habits, you need to kill the old habits many times over. Otherwise, it's going to be coming back to life again. Okay. All right. So based on this, if we want to change ourselves, we have to deal with our habits, right? And those are the viruses of the mind that prevent us to be better. And they will tell us to give up when we are still at the valley of disappointments. And somehow I'm about to talk. I'm about to talk about another monster. Actually, this is what Mr. Monsieur Pierre Simon, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Pierre Simon Laplace. Monsieur Laplace, actually, after he listened to Sir Isaac Newton's theory about gravity, so based on that theory of Isaac Newton and also things related to the maybe science and knowledge at that time, he actually proposed that suppose there is an intellect or a demon that is able to capture all informations in the world. And if the world can be deterministic like this butterfly effect theory, then just like the past, the future could also be determined. So that is actually his proposal. He said that if you're able to capture all information and based on Sir Isaac Newton, how he explained about gravity and attractions between objects, and every movement is under a deterministic system, which is similar to the butterfly effect or the chaos theory, then maybe we can predict the future. And after this, some people used the theory of the Laplace demon to predict something like this future. The thing is that what I'm about to tell you is actually maybe the future can be predicted, and someone has predicted future before. Okay, for example, I read this in Tripitaka or the Buddhist scripture that the Buddha once talked about units that is so small. He said that if you have a rice grain and you divide rice grains into 7 small pieces, smaller pieces, that one small pieces is going to be the same size of a pear, which is very small bulk. And if you divide, if you have the eggs of pear and 7 eggs, that's gonna be equivalent to 36 pollens, which is something from flowers, pollen. And one pollen is gonna be equally the same size of 36 times rays of light. And one ray of light, that's gonna be equivalent to 36 small molecules. And one small molecule, that's gonna be equivalent to 36 atoms. And he didn't actually use the word atoms, he used the word like something like paramanu, and that cannot be divided further. So he said that actually there's one small unit 2,600 years ago that could not be divided further. That's going to be the final. And scientists recently discovered that this is going to be similar to the size at 10 to the power of minus 10, equivalent to the size of hydrogen atom or carbon atom. Okay, so suppose, because according to Laplace demons, if any intellect were able to capture the data of everything, how all the particles move and how actually the molecule size and something like that. That's really funny because I happen to read about Laplace demon and also connect with this story. that actually the Buddha was able to predict the size of an atom 600 years ago. That's interesting, right? And because he was able to predict the size of atom, he also able to predict the future of a karma. When you do a karma, then if you are in front of him, you can actually tell that this karma is going to lead you something, and maybe in the future lives or in the future, that you're going to need to maybe they will come as some consequences that you have to face later on. Okay, and I have a little story. Actually, this pretty interesting how this can be unfolded. Okay. Yeah, even though CERN found a new subatom particles or something like that, but they are not stable yet. So you need to actually see how stability they are. So in fact, the stable smallest things until date, the stable so that they don't just disappear in split seconds, they are still those electrons, protons, or neutrons until now. Okay, interesting. So actually, the Buddha, he talked about how things gonna happen in the future, just similar to the butterfly theory or the chaos systems that you need to reach a point. If you remember, I talked about how the Buddha in his first life, he actually was swimming in the ocean, struggling to survive. And because he actually saw how life is full of suffering, then he made a vow and a resolution that one day he wanted to become a Buddha. But that was not immediate success. So he could not become the Buddha in the next lifetime, even though he earned the title of Bodhisattva or the Buddha wannabe. But he had to wait for a long amount of time. If you actually wonder how that long amount of time is, I have some numbers as well. Interesting. So I present you a number called kappa. And actually, this number is a unit in Buddhist scripture that describes how a galaxy was created, prosper, and destroy, and become empty space until it's created again. I'm not sure if that's a Big Bang, but it's when a galaxy is created. It's not the whole thing, just a galaxy. When it is completely destroyed, created, and prosper, and destroy, created, prosper again. That cycle, one of them is called kappa. You might wonder how long that kappa is, because even though the Buddha tried to describe that in numbers, okay, we have the numbers as well. Interesting here. So in typical metric systems, they describe very large number to the power of 21. 10 to the power of 21 they call zeta, and 10 to the power of 24 they have iota. And they are just probably, I never heard anything larger than iota. Maybe they are, but even when we talk about computer science, we talk about gigabytes or these days terabytes, but computers are yet to reach petabytes. So petabytes probably exist only in lab or supercomputer. Exabytes probably exist in those lab and computers as well, but no one talk about zettabyte or yottabyte yet. So these are very large number. No computer in the world is able to process data larger than yottabytes. Okay, but then in India scriptures, if anyone are from India, maybe you're very used to this number because they come from ancient Indian scripture. They have Nabuta, which is 10 to the power of 28, and then there are more until they reach 10 to the power of 140 here. That's they call Asongkhaya, which is 1 followed by 140 zeros. That's very large number. And according to the Indian text, that's not the final number. They describe one maybe largest number, I don't know. They call parallel. That's 10 to the power of 4, 0, 0, 0, 0, many of them. Okay, so that's even much larger than a Songkhaya. But then someone asked, okay, how big is this Songkhaya? Because we can't comprehend those numbers. Okay, it's actually 2,600 years ago. No one understood anything about this. So the Buddha tried to describe that there is a very large rock solid metal, and each size, this cubic actually is 16 kilometers height, 16 kilometers width, 16 kilometer deep, and that's like 1 square of the large unit called yod, or yeah, so that's unit is equal to 16 kilometers. And that unit is very, so this actually rock is very large. And every 100 years, someone is going to take a cloth, a piece of cloth that is so fine, and touch that rock solid metal or object once, just once, and another 100 years, maybe another person comes, use the cloth to touch it again, until that piece of metal or rock or something like that started to lose its substance, and maybe one day in long future will become nothing. So that is the amount of time described by, yeah, that large number. So now you probably are aware that how they describe one kappa or 140 kappa or something like that is very long, right? So 1 kappa is equivalent to this, is the time that this rock solid metal actually come to nothingness just by touching with fine cloth every 100 years. So this is the time equivalent to cup. But then a Songkhaya is how you prefix 1 cup with 110 to the power of 140. That's very long. And how the Buddha actually from his first lifetime, and he pursued his what we call 10 habits. So he need to work with habits, and that's the 10 habits of becoming the Buddha. He need to spend time equivalent to 20 Asongkhaya. Okay, and from that 7 first that he just thought about it, after 7 Asongkhaya, he started to speak to people. Yeah, you know, one day I'm going to become a Buddha. And he had done that for 9 Asongkhaya until 4 remaining, he will get prediction from the Buddha. So after 16 Asongkhaya of that long amount of time, that is how the butterfly engine of how someone will become a Buddha will work. That's complicated, I know. So for Asongkhaya remaining time here, then he will meet one Buddha, and that one Buddha is going to predict whether he will be successful of becoming a Buddha in the future or not. So the time, 16 of them before the last 4, that could not still be determined. Okay, so the Buddha will actually be able to predict when it comes to the 4 remaining Asongkhaya. And he had to work with habits as well. And these are 10 habits that you need to become the Buddha. If you maybe one day, okay, oh, being Buddha is very cool. I can help a lot of people. I can teach and I can, discover meditation or something like that. And you have an idea that you should earn the title of being a Buddha. Again, Buddha is not a person. It's a title of a man or a person who will one day discover the method of meditation that is lost one day, So generosity Okay, self-discipline, celibacy, wisdoms, perseverance, patience, commitment and truthfulness, resolution, compassion, and equanimity. Okay, you remember resolution. I talked about it yesterday, the power of resolution, that you need to set your goal and you will not give up until you reach the goal. That's the meaning of resolution. So these are habits that, we need to work across lifetime. So according to this, if you fail again and again working on some habits, don't worry, not only you, because according to this, habit needs more than one lifetime to master. Okay, but don't give up. All right, so I'd like to end here. There is a very nice quote here that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Wow, that's 20. Number is equivalent to number 20 in Asankaya that a man requires to become a Buddha, right? But the second best time is to do it now. So if you want to work on something, either you did it 20 years ago, you have done it long time ago, or you start doing it now. That's gonna be how you start the butterfly effect engine or the chaos theory engine. Okay. All right. So that's how I like to present about the butterfly effect today. There's one question. What is the karma of a married couple who cannot bear a child, children, despite of doing work suggested by doctor and also suggested medicine followed by couple, but not too well? Actually, maybe the couples supported or being a part of abortion, or maybe they did some, something similar to animals. Maybe they raise or they have cattle, they work in a farm and they need to abort. And I'm thinking about one English word that you actually stop sperm for coming out. Yeah, I'm thinking about that word. That doesn't come to my mind at the moment. Okay, maybe you can help me. What is that word? To maybe like to cut the sperm cord, something like that, that actually make, okay, Kelly, help me. Prophylactic, okay, prophylactic to maybe, yeah, that's probably the word. Okay, Danny from England proposed another word. I will have to check these words later on. So if you did that to a lot of animals in the past, or maybe you were a doctor who cut that for your patients, then it will be harder for you or for a couple to bear child. That's the past karma. The surgery, yeah, to cut that sperm cord. Okay, so that usually make people unable to have kids anymore, right? And yeah, so that's a karma as well. All right.